You know what it feels to me? We're talking about the pubs disappearing, and people need somewhere to interact with other people socially. And if social media, we may have lots of people clicking or whatever.
It's very similar,
like it, but they're not really relationships. What you're saying is the pub is a time to actually speak properly to a human being.
Oh, it's very similar to, in a lot of ways, without the alcohol, it's very similar to, yeah.
You have the alcohol somewhere as well.
Yeah.
So it's almost becoming a bit of a kind of replacement for the old
No, it is.
pub.
It is, because it's just, you know, mostly men, it is men that are getting their haircuts in here. We do have a few women coming.
Really?
Like, yeah, we do. It's changed now a lot. There's a lot more women feeling comfortable to come into a barber shop. But, you know, it's just that place. It's just a man's home where people talk, they have fun, you know. Because 9 times out of 10 in barbering, you're looking for repeat business. So once you've, you know, you build up a relationship with a client, because you want people to come back. So after you've cut their hair 3 or 4 times, you pretty much, you know, you built up that bond, that relationship with them. And it's nice because they're almost like friends as well as just, you know.
So whenever you're ambitious, you want to have more barbershop. Will there always be multiple seats? Is your vision of a barbershop not just a single chair? My own barber in Golders Green is one chair and one guy. Do you think that is not the right model? You think it should always be a number of chairs and a number of barbers?
Well, it depends. I suppose it depends on what the individual wants to achieve out of the job.
Yeah.
Me personally, there's nothing better than the buzz you get when all the seats are filled and the music's playing.
And the noise and the chat as well.
And the chatter and everyone's smiling, having a laugh. You look there and there are people talking there. You're talking to them, you're cutting yours, you're talking there. That is the buzz you get off that you just couldn't have in sort of a one-seat shop.
And that's not about the money. It's actually giving you satisfaction.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with the money. The satisfaction of being an entertainer as well as a barber.
So what is it? Because the fact you're making people happy, the fact that people are enjoying it, the barber's enjoying it, the person whose hair's being, is that what it is? Everyone's happy?
Definitely.
Wow.
I mean, we very rarely get complaints. And when we do get complaints, it's such a different complaint to say what you'd get if you worked in like a hotel or something, because it's so personable. People don't really want to complain to you because 9 times out of 10 they like you, so they don't, you know.
It's incredible. It's a relationship business, and you're an entertainer. It's funny. It's not just cutting the person's hair. It's actually keeping them engaged in the conversation. And do you help them to kind of come up with ideas for chatting with the person? Is that part of the training? Or
it's 100%. I say 50% of it is the customer service and the relationship building. All of my apprentices, I say to them, I've got one at the moment, he's great, but he's naturally a little bit more of a quiet guy. But I've said to him, you know, 50% is the natter, because people love it, you know. That is what it's all about. It's all about, you know, client service.
It's incredible now, because we think about where the really big money is being made in business, yeah? And it's people doing financial traders, I don't know, people running hedge funds or lawyers charging, Mark Nimboski would say, £1,200 an hour. You're not charging £1,200 an hour, I think, or anywhere remotely resembling this. And to me, what you're doing is actually building a relationship, and people are coming back and they enjoy, presumably they're enjoying the experience. And
they are, but interestingly, when you say, you know, people are charging £1,200 an hour in the financial trade, it's not quite the same, but haircuts are going up now. They're on the rise because of the cost of living, like we spoke about. And it's, you know, the way they're going up now, I'm starting to notice that where I have to up the prices of the haircuts, you know,
people still pay. You can still keep the shop busy,
keep it busy, but you do notice you do lose people are going to go elsewhere. If you up the price by a couple of pounds, they're going to go elsewhere because they haven't got the money that they had readily available in the past. They need that extra £2 now because they've got to think twice about things because the way the world's gone, you know.
To me, where the system is wrong again is it's not looking after the people. See, what we've identified is people want to become barbers. The system doesn't allow them to get onto the ladder. So therefore, the first thing is that it's hard. You see yourself, you want to become you want to cut hair. You can't do it because you can't get onto the first rung of the ladder because the system fundamentally blocks you because you've got to find somebody generous like you who actually wants to help people, and not many people will not want to do that. They want the hassle of employing people.
No, they don't, because most people, you know, they don't have the money and they don't have the time being a barber to do it, and you're just pressed against all of that, and then you've got to, you know, and most people, they just simply, they don't want to engage in that because they're not getting the reward back. By the time they've taught that person, built them up, the risk versus reward, it isn't there.
Let me ask you this question. In terms of your own history, can you buy a house or get onto the first rung of the house buying ladder in this area on the back of starting a barbershop?
So it's definitely not as easy as what it was. I mean, obviously, if you save up for about 50 years, you might be able to get on the property ladder. But the way it's going, if you're talking just one man, you cutting hair, you might be able to, again, it's all different for where you're living because how much you're charging that. You could potentially get a flat round here for sure, the way the prices are going. If you offset the price of a haircut to the price of a house now, definitely not, because a haircut's probably, you know, from where it was 15 years ago, if a house was worth 200 back then and a haircut was £9, and now a haircut's worth, say, here 18, and the house, that same house is worth 600, it's gone up 3 times, whereas a haircut's only really doubled in that time. So it's definitely
But one of your barbers who's working for you, could he afford a mortgage? Could he afford to buy a flat, or is he likely to be living with his parents? And
you're definitely more likely if you're working in a barber shop, unless you've got a partner, it's very hard to 100%. You're going to need some support there. If you're just working in a shop, even if you're on good money in a barber shop, the revenue that you're earning from it, there's no way. You're going to need help. And
in your own case, how long did it actually take you before you could actually leave home to start?
I left home at 27, and that was, if you base that on the fact that I had my own shop at 24 and I was fully booked within 6 months, 6 days a week I was working. So I was working 6 days a week at 24, and it took me 3 years from then to move out, and I was living at home, and luckily I weren't, you know, paying rent, so I had that support.
And you say it's the only way you were allowed to do it because you didn't have to pay rent, and therefore you could save. If you had paid rent, you couldn't have actually saved the money to do it anyway.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you've got a family where they need rent because they can't afford to live and they can't afford to support you like that, you're in big trouble. Because if you put that on the fact I was working 6 days a week and I was always fully booked back then, and I was still struggling to move out by myself, it's almost impossible. I ended up moving out with my brother in the end because of just,
It's crazy. So what we're saying is not only is it impossible to find a kind employer who's prepared to actually give you opportunity, the numbers mean that you have to be paying no rent effectively or mortgage. You have to be at home in order to build up enough money for a deposit.
Definitely.
Which means, again, the system's not looking after people.
The system isn't looking after people at all, absolutely not. I mean, the way it's going, definitely.
Some lawyers are starting at 60 to £100,000 a year straight out of
that's not going to happen in barbering.
No, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen in barbering. And you have to put a lot of work in barbering. I mean,
it's interesting to compare the value to what you're giving to people, yeah? So a lawyer isn't really doing much for anybody other than, it's a process, it's bureaucracy, it's something. Whereas you actually are looking after, you're building a relationship, you're looking after people.
Yes.
You're looking after your employee, you're looking after your customer. And there you're struggling to make enough money to get onto the first rung of the ladder. And if you're lucky, you're living at home and which is a crazy system. It shows how...
Well, I think the problem is that in barbering and hairdressing, there's a lot of great, really high-skilled barbers and hairdressers, but there's no regulations on the skill. You don't really have to have qualifications. So it's completely,
That's interesting, because what you're saying is the amount you can charge, which is my own experience of regulation, it's there to look after the people.
The skill's overlooked.
Yeah. But regulation limits the number of people that can do the job.
Yes.
And therefore you can end up charging more because
definitely
not that the regulation actually is necessary, but it actually means that the charge can be lifted. And the gatekeepers, the lawyers, I'm an accountant for my sins, and lawyers, again, I genuinely believe that we add a lot less value to the lives of our clients than you, who actually spend your time talking to people, interacting with them, making them feel happy and good about themselves. Yet, probably you're lucky to you're paying £18 for a haircut, and you can only make the numbers work to even start your own shop. You've got to find somebody kind enough to help you, and then you've got to find somebody who's prepared to live with his parents for time to put the money away, which is a completely ludicrous system.